Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh-Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News, broadcasting live from the Al Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio meets Netanyahu in Jerusalem and says Washington will offer its unwavering support to Israel in the war in Gaza. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces calls to sanction Elon Musk after the billionaire businessman told an anti-immigration rally in London violence is coming to Britain and it must fight or die. Plus, Vice President J.D. Vance will host a tribute edition of the Charlie Kirk show tonight as his alleged killer is reportedly not cooperating with authorities. And Hollywood stars grace the red carpet for this year's Emmy Awards with The Pit and Adolescence winning trophies. The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has promised that Washington will offer its unwavering support to Israel in the war in Gaza. He made the remarks at a joint press conference with Netanyahu, who said Rubio's visit to Jerusalem was a clear message the United States stood with Israel following an Israeli strike on Hamas leaders in Qatar. Their meeting comes as Arab leaders hold an emergency summit in Doha today. I'm now joined from Israel by Middle East correspondent and also author Yotam Confino. Yoto, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, Israel's Prime Minister said today during a press conference with Marco Rubio that he doesn't rule out further strikes against Hamas leaders wherever they are. How provocative is this thinly veiled threat that appears to have come from the Israeli Prime Minister?
Yeah, as you're saying, it's thinly veiled, you know. He's saying this at the same time as Arab and Muslim leaders are meeting in Doha and condemning Israel from left to right, talking about a united front, wanting to punish Israel. So Netanyahu clearly feels emboldened. He got away with trying to assassinate Hamas leadership in Qatar. What stops him from doing the same in Ankara? The difference, of course, is that Turkey is a member of NATO, and that could trigger a huge diplomatic crisis if he started going after Hamas leaders in Turkey. But Netanyahu is trying to tell to the Arab and the Muslim world that the days where Hamas leaders feel like they have immunity in certain areas of the world, those days are over. And that is a very, very strong and harsh message to deliver at the same time that the foreign minister of the United States is standing right next to him, because it shows that even though there are many Muslim and Arab states who are willing to condemn and to talk about punishing Israel, Israel has the most important actor next to it, and that is, of course, the United States.
And was this a solidarity visit from the US as Israel, Yotam, just appears to become increasingly isolated on the international stage? Or was it proof that the two countries are still on the same page? Because obviously Donald Trump was unhappy about Israel's attack on Qatar.
It's a good question. First of all, it's my understanding that this visit was actually scheduled before Israel's attack in Doha. So to me, it doesn't look like necessarily a solidarity visit, but it does send a strong signal. Look, Marco Rubio could have chosen to go first to Qatar and then go to Israel to send a signal, but he chose to go to Israel first. And Marco Rubio is as pro-Israel as it gets. I would say that today, again, removes any doubt that there might have been that the United States stands behind Israel. Pretty much whatever it does. It doesn't matter if Israel is attacking Iran or going after Hamas leaders in Qatar, which is a close ally of the U.S. It's quite, I would say, amazing to see how much Netanyahu can get away with. And I'm pretty sure he has looked at Vladimir Putin and Russia to get an idea of how much you can actually get away with when Donald Trump is in the White House. And of course, for Netanyahu, it's much, much better because he's actually friends with Donald Trump, unlike Vladimir Putin.
Marco Rubio was in Israel as strikes intensify in northern Gaza. Did Israel give any answers about their view of a path forward in Gaza? Because Marco Rubio said those were the answers he was actually looking for ahead of this visit.
We didn't get any specifics, but we do know from facts on the ground that just today, Israel conducted another attack on a high-rise building, which is apparently another place that Hamas used to surveil and to store weapons and whatnot to attack Israel. They attacked another high-rise building inside Gaza City. They're doing this on a daily basis with the clear goal of removing as many threats from Hamas as possible before Israeli soldiers are going to be on the ground inside Gaza City. So the plan is continuing. Unless something amazing happens, unless a miracle happens in the coming week, Israeli soldiers will likely find themselves inside Gaza City and begin taking out Hamas. But it's going to be bloody because so far around 300,000 civilians have left Gaza City, which means that another 700,000 are likely still in Gaza City, that's a huge amount of civilians that could get caught between Hamas and Israel. But Marco Rubio said it very clearly again today that Hamas needs to be destroyed fully. So it looks as if even though Donald Trump really wants a ceasefire, he is giving Israel a green light to continue to finish the job, as he says.
And Yotam, Qatar's Emir says Benjamin Netanyahu wants to turn the Arab region into an Israeli sphere of influence. As we did mention earlier, the Arab leaders are meeting at this emergency summit in Doha. In your opinion, how damaged are the relations following Israel's strikes on Doha? And as you said, a difficult message for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to relay while Marco Rubio is standing next to him.
I think the Gulf nations have really gotten a reality check. They have for years thought that the United States were going to give them security guarantees, but they have experienced over and over that that's just not the case. When the Houthis attacked Saudi Arabia or when Iran attacked Qatar, and now when Israel attacked Qatar again, it's really showing that these Gulf leaders, they might sign trillion-dollar deals with Donald Trump, but he's not coming to their rescue when they are being attacked. And this is something that's very worrying for them. I really think that the reason why they're so furious is because they realize that the only thing they really have in Donald Trump, they're deep pockets, and that's pretty much it. But he's not going to stop Israel. And this is a huge concern for them. So I think that, of course, this is going to strain the relations between Qatar and Israel. But as long as Donald Trump shields Netanyahu and supports him, I don't think it's going to really lead to any severe repercussions other than humiliation for these nations. There might be a lot of strong words also, but I would be surprised if we see something extreme, such as, of course, let's say the Arab Emirates cut diplomatic ties with Israel in solidarity with Qatar. I really don't think that we're going to see anyone going to those lengths.
Yotam Confino, thank you so much for your insights and analysis. Pleasure talking to you. Let's get more on this from Al Arabiya's geopolitical security analyst, Riyad Kawaji. Riyad, I'm not sure if you heard Yotam just before you on the show. He was joining us from Israel. Do you think Gulf leaders did get a reality check that the US wasn't going to support them and Donald Trump is standing by Benjamin Netanyahu?
Well, I think the reality check came a long time ago. This is not the first time, but what's new in this recent attack, that it took place right where the US has established its biggest airbase. And this airbase, the deal between Qatar and the US is that is going to take part in defending Qatar against any foreign threat. And in this case, it did not do anything. I think this is with the current Israeli policy of becoming the hegemon of the Middle East. You know, all the speeches at today's summit spoke about the Israeli quest of becoming the hegemon power of the Middle East. And they all asserted that this is something that they will not stand for and they will not accept. And now what will they do is just remains to be seen. But as far as the U.S. defense relations with its Arab partners, it's under serious examination by these partners now to see whether this is something worth continuing and worth investing as much as they have been into it from now going on forward.
And what has today's summit between the Arab leaders actually achieved? What has been the main outcome today, given that some nations already have these close diplomatic recognition deals with Israel?
Well, one of the most important thing here is that they all focused on means and power tools they have in their possession to use against Israel. And many of them mentioned that the foundation of the peace offers from the Arabs towards Israel, and even the peace treaties signed between Israel and these Arab countries have in it that there would be a two-state solution, that this Israeli government is vowing to end a Palestinian state, or the foundation of a Palestinian state. And therefore, this puts in question the future of these peace agreements. The foundation of all the Arab peace plan, the peace proposals, are based on the two-state solution. On the security side, we have had in the decision, they've taken a decision to activate the defense component of the GCC treaty. This is, I mean, the Arab Gulf countries now will be reviving their military component and re-examining the situation in light of recent incidents, especially, you know, the joint defense efforts, collaborations, and so forth to consolidate the defenses of the Arabian Peninsula. And also inviting all member countries to double down on their diplomatic and economic power tools and isolating Israel and exerting pressure on the U.S. To itself pressure Israel to go back to the international norms and to end the war in Gaza, and to seize the violation of sovereignties and the daily violations of sovereignties of countries like Lebanon, like Syria, and, you know, not to repeat these attacks on the Arab Gulf countries.
And Riyadh, as you mentioned to me earlier, many speeches given at today's summit emphasize that Israel has been able to escalate attacks because it enjoys the support of the US. Marco Rubio will be in Qatar tomorrow. We've obviously seen him in Israel today. Will this visit actually help or hinder relations?
Well, we've seen the Qatari Prime Minister. He already met with Rubio in Washington when he went to the New York UN meetings, the Security Council meetings. He also even met with President Trump. So this would be a follow-up visit by Rubio, but this time to meet with the Emir of Qatar. And I don't know what sort of additional assurances. We know that Trump has vowed that there will not be a repeat of the Israeli attack on Qatar, and spoke of signing a joint defense pact with Qatar. I don't know. I'm not sure how things would go. Today's speech by the Qatari Emir was very high pitched, with some serious threats, some serious statements and accusations made in it. So I think Qatar would be expecting some very serious commitments from the U.S. side, some convincing commitments from the U.S. side, because right now the public opinion in these countries is very angry, and the leadership is expected to take the necessary action to regain the confidence of their public opinion.
Riyad Kawaji, Al Arabiya's geopolitical security analyst and, of course, friend of the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing calls to sanction Elon Musk after the X and Tesla owner told an anti-immigration rally in London that violence is coming to Britain and they must fight or die. The billionaire also called for the dissolution of Parliament during a speech to demonstrators. Up to 150,000 people joined the Unite the Kingdom demonstration in London, which was organised by far-right campaigner Tommy Robinson. For more on this, I'm joined from Delaware by former Trump state campaign chair Rob Artlett. Rob, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. So Elon Musk addressed hundreds of thousands of protesters in London yesterday, claiming massive uncontrolled migration was leading to the destruction of Britain. Top UK ministers say his words are encouraging violence. Do you agree? And should Elon Musk stay out of politics?
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you and your audience, and thank you for the opportunity. I would just say two words. Number one, Elon Musk is not inciting violence, but only informing the general public. If anybody is inciting violence, in my opinion, it is the elected officials. Why do they have mass illegal, I'll use that word firmly, illegal immigration within their country? And I would just say Elon Musk is only forewarning the general public because of the experiences that we've had here in America with massive illegal immigration in our own country, and the issues and the challenges and the crime and the death, child trafficking. There are so many issues with not vetting legal immigration because you don't know who's coming into your country. So I would just say I applaud Elon Musk because no politician owns him, and he just speaks his mind freely, as should all citizens, I believe, of Great Britain, America, and other countries around the world. So I welcome his forewarning to the public to be prepared. And also, perhaps more important than the public, is forewarning of the government of Great Britain to do their job, protect their people, and protect their borders.
So you obviously don't think that he should face any form of sanctions from the Labour Party that is in power at the moment. You think he's doing the right thing?
I do. And why would they sanction him? For what? Speaking his mind? For speaking the truth? Again, I think it's silly and almost irresponsible of elected officials to make those type of comments. Why aren't they just listening to their people? Their people are concerned for, again, illegal immigration, mass illegal immigration. And I'll use that word again, illegal. There is a legal process to do it. What has happened in our country here in America, in Great Britain, and many other nations is mass illegal immigration, which means that there are people coming into their countries and they don't know who they are. They don't know their background, and what they do know is the crime and the corruption and also the bloodshed that occurs when they come in, when they're not properly vetted. And I think that's a very distinct differential between legal immigration and illegal immigration. Big difference between the two.
And President Trump is heading to the UK, Rob, for a second state visit, which is pretty unprecedented at a time of really high tension in both countries. Is US politics influencing the surge of the right in the UK? Are we seeing that?
I would say yes. Again, President Trump is very vocal on pushing back of illegal immigrants and deporting them here in America. Those, again, who have committed heinous crimes, those who have committed rape, those who have fostered child trafficking, the worst of the worst, illegal immigrants need to get kicked out of this country because they're not here legally. They were never invited to come to this country. And so many Americans welcome that process. And I think President Trump is going to support those that are protesting in Great Britain to do the same. Again, why is the government permitting illegal immigration in the first place? Why don't they just follow their own rules and follow their own laws?
And ahead of his state visit, the UK's ambassador to the US has resigned over his connection with Jeffrey Epstein. And that was following the release of the birthday book last week. Do you think this is overshadowing Donald Trump's visits? And there are now calls for the British Prime Minister to actually resign over this. What do you make of the whole Epstein saga and why the Epstein files just haven't been released?
It's a great question. And I think many Americans, many Republicans, many Democrats, many independents, just many Americans are very frustrated with their own government because they have not released them yet. And of course, Attorney General Pam Bondi has stated that she would do so, but yet she has not. The question remains, why? And I don't think, personally, I don't think it's because she is doing anything to protect President Trump. When Democrats were in control, when Biden was president and the Democrats had control of both chambers of Congress, they would have easily released those documents if President Trump was on those documents to prevent him and hurt him in his campaign this last year. So I don't think that's the reason for it. I think there could be other reasons, could be intelligence reasons. Me coming, from a military background, military intelligence background, there could be a lot of reasons that the general public doesn't know quite yet. And they could be also just doing further investigations and perhaps be doing a mass preparation for lots of arrests. I hope that is the case, because anybody who is doing what they've done with young girls should be arrested and be put behind bars for a very long time. And I don't care who you are or what side of the aisle you reside on, what your politics are. If you're doing that, you should be held accountable fully to the full extent of the law. And so is this going to play out in Great Britain? Very likely, and it should.
And Rob, what is your feeling in America following the death of Charlie Kirk? Are you concerned about violence? And many people have called out President Trump for blaming the left and the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's very disheartening. We knew Charlie Kirk personally, as did my older son. And it's a very sad day when one cannot speak freely of their voice and also give others the opportunity to speak their own voice. He was murdered. Think about that. He was murdered because of our First Amendment here in America. And so I think that's unnecessary, it's uncalled for, and it's un-American. And I think all politicians need to call out the violence and stop it on all sides of the aisle. For me, it's not political. It's just doing the right thing for the right reason and to safeguard and protect our First Amendment and calm down opinions. We welcome opinions here in America. That's what makes America amazing, but not with violence. And I think every single American, be it a Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, needs to stop the violence, be respectful of other opinions, and let the process play out as we are guaranteed by that First Amendment here in America.
And Rob, just a quick thought before I let you go. You mentioned you knew Charlie Kirk and so did your son. What was he like behind the scenes?
Passionate, articulate, determined, faithful, and fearless. And I think that's who Charlie Kirk was as a man. And I believe his legacy we haven't seen the fullest extent of his legacy quite yet. And I think it will be absolutely growing, because I think the American people, the American society, even many Democrats, do not call for this criminal act which occurred. But again, I think the voices do need to be tamed, but at the same time, those who are doing constant call for violence against those who they disagree should be called out and be held accountable as well. And I think we have to, it's got to get bubbled up to the surface, and the tolerance, we've got to be tolerant and learn from each other. In my opinion, it's all about learning from each other and making our country a better America. And so I think his legacy has yet to be really pronounced as far as how important it will be, but I think it is going to be highly important. For such a young guy, he had done so much for so many, giving them a voice that whereas others just wouldn't do it, he did. He gave that platform for many Democrats, many liberals. He gave a voice, and he wanted to learn from them and hear from them, and at the same time, gave them the ability and a microphone to do just that. So it's a sad day when you can't just speak your own mind and learn from each other, as Charlie Kirk did.
Rob Artlett, thank you so much for your reflection there on Charlie Kirk. Appreciate your thoughts. Vice President J.D. Vance will host the Charlie Kirk Show this evening as a tribute to the right-wing activist who was killed at one of his rallies at Utah Valley University last week. It comes as Utah's Governor Spencer James Cox said the alleged killer, Tyler Robinson, is not cooperating with authorities, and investigators were still trying to establish a motive. Let's get the latest from Washington from our correspondent, Sarah Firth. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. And let's start with the investigation itself. What more do we know about the suspect, Tyler Robinson, and the details surrounding his arrest and also the upcoming court appearance?
Yes, Leigh-Ann, we've been learning more about the suspect over the course of the weekend and throughout today. Now, Tyler Robinson is the 22-year-old from Utah who prosecutors say carried out the killing of Charlie Kirk. He was arrested on Friday on suspicion of aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, and discharge of a firearm. Now, all of those are extremely serious offences, of course, and carry some of the highest penalties, in Utah. Now, he's currently being held in Utah County Jail without bail. We're expecting tomorrow, on Tuesday, for the formal charges to be made and for him to appear in court. Now, earlier on today, we heard from one of the FBI co-director, deputy directors, who said that there was an obsession that the suspect, that Tyler Robinson, had with conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. They've also, we know, investigators been combing through Tyler Robinson's digital footprint. The FBI co-deputy director saying there were multiple warning signs. Now, Leigh-Ann, I can tell you some of the things they've been looking at. We know from the Utah government, we know from the statements from the FBI, some messages that were left on the platform Discord between friends. That's something that investigators are looking about, where we know the suspect made some jokes about his doppelganger carrying out the crime. We also know that they're looking into his personal background. So Tyler Robinson comes from a conservative family, but we've heard that he had a very different ideology, what's called a leftist ideology. That's what the Utah governor has said. And we also know from Kash Patel, the FBI director, speaking today, he has said that the suspect's DNA was found at the scene. But we have to wait for tomorrow. That's when we're expecting to hear more details from those that are going to be prosecuting this case. And one of the big questions that remains outstanding, Leigh-Ann, is the motive. That simply hasn't been explained right now. We know investigators are combing every avenue, especially this digital footprint, to try and draw up a picture of exactly what the motive was here.
And Utah's governor has, over the weekend, pointed to gaming culture and parts of the dark internet as possible factors in Tyler Robinson's radicalization. How seriously are investigators taking that line of inquiry? And what evidence has actually appeared so far?
They're taking it extremely seriously, Leigh-Ann. As you mentioned in the introduction, the suspect has been uncooperative with investigators up until this point. He's pleaded the fifth. He's not cooperating. So at this point, investigators have been relying on family, on people who knew him, and on that digital footprint. And the Utah governor being absolutely unequivocal about the role that social media and this dark internet culture, he described it as, played in the radicalization of this individual. Some of the evidence is that the bullet casings that were used, they had inscriptions on them. We're told by investigators that those inscriptions linked to internet memes. The Utah governor calling this the memification of violence. So it's an avenue that the investigators are looking up to build a profile of this individual, to get a sense of how potentially he was radicalized and also what the motive behind this killing might be. And of course, shockwaves, just Leigh-Ann, across here in Washington, D.C., across the Capitol and across the country at what happened here.
Yes, absolutely. I think shockwaves across a lot of the world, Sarah, as we do hear about Charlie Kirk and more about the suspect. But there's also been scrutiny of the FBI director's handling of this case in the very early hours. How significant is that criticism, and what has the administration said in Kash Patel's defense?
Well, yes, you've got former and current law enforcement officials, counter-terror experts that have been speaking up, saying that what Kash Patel did in the aftermath of the killing wasn't in good leadership style and showed his lack of experience in a leadership role of this kind. Now, some of the criticisms and concerns are around the fact that he went out to dinner on the night after Charlie was killed, after learning of that killing. They also have a lot of concerns being expressed about the announcement that he made on his social media in the initial stages of the investigation that a suspect had been taken into custody. That person was later released, and it was another suspect that is now being investigated. All of this has to be said. The White House have come out and stood behind Kash Patel, and the president himself speaking about the work of the FBI director and his team and the local law enforcement officials was very pleased with the work that they've been doing and with the outcome so far, but certainly some eyebrows raised around his handling of the situation. And at the same time, Leigh-Ann, at the moment you've got the White House and the Trump administration, they are pushing right now for tens of millions more in additional funding to provide the security for people, politicians in this situation. I can tell you that there is a lot of noise from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats right now, about concerns for their safety in the aftermath of this killing.
Sarah Firth in Washington, thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a look at the top business news now. And a framework deal has been reached between China and the US for the ownership of TikTok. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made the announcement after a weekend of trade talks in Spain. He said Donald Trump and Xi Jinping will speak on Friday to possibly finalize that deal. A preliminary investigation has found NVIDIA violated China's anti-monopoly law. That is according to the country's market regulator. It's a big blow to the US chip giant ahead of US and China trade talks in Madrid. NVIDIA shares also fell 2.1% in pre-market trading. Turning to all the sports news now, former MMA fighter Conor McGregor has announced his withdrawal from the Irish presidency race. He told his social media followers it was not an easy decision, but it was the right one at this moment in time. 3 judges recently rejected McGregor's appeal against a sexual assault case where he was ordered to pay nearly €250,000 in damages. And world number 1 golfer Scottie Scheffler is preparing for this month's Ryder Cup after winning the PGA Tour's Pro Court Championship. The American closed 5 under par to finish one shot in front of Ben Griffin at Silverado in Napa, California. It is Scheffler's 6th title of this year so far. Now, Hollywood stars graced the red carpet in Los Angeles last night for the 77th Primetime Emmy Awards. There were cash awards for short speeches, a historic prize for the miniseries Adolescence, and a big win for The Late Show, hosted by Stephen Colbert. To take a look at some of the night's biggest moments, I'm joined by entertainment reporter Stephanie Tecci. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us to talk all about the Emmys. So let's start with Owen Cooper. Amazing achievement. He's become the youngest ever man to win an Emmy. And what did he actually win it for?
Well, Leigh-Ann, Owen Cooper is a name we won't be forgetting anytime soon because he's got such a long career ahead of him in Hollywood. At just age 15, yesterday, he picked up the Best Supporting Actor in a Limited Series for that powerful performance he put on in Adolescence. He plays a boy who was accused of murdering his classmate. As you can imagine, it's such a shocking plot. It became Netflix's 2nd most ever watched show. And, you know, just to reflect how young he is, he said in his speech yesterday, it was quite surreal for him. And you know what? He's not going to be living it up in Hollywood because this week he'll be coming back to school. But he said he won't be bringing his award because he's scared it might get robbed. But yeah, you know, that is just goes to show how young he is and how much of an impact he made with this show. It's something that's been loved in the UK and it's gone worldwide. So it was a win that was very well deserved.
And it was actually a great watch, wasn't it, Stephanie? And all of us were talking about it. It just created such a debate. But that wasn't Adolescence's only win for the night. In fact, it seemed to pretty much dominate the evening. What else did it win?
Well, you know, us Brits are kind of smiling today because we did do well with this show and it did pick up 6 on the night, including 2 for Stephen Graham, which is another beloved actor from the UK. He won Best Actor in a Limited Series and also for his writing. As we've said, this was such a powerful script. It's something that can connect with a lot of a UK audience. But when we think of the amount of youth violence that is going around worldwide, it was quite timely. So they won 6 awards on the night for that drama. And I definitely think it was definitely well deserved.
Yeah, I agree too. It was an absolutely great series. And Seth Rogen's series also did well, taking home 4 awards across the evening. He was pretty shocked, right?
He was. This is a man who's been a beloved actor in Hollywood. I think he's very underrated. But, you know, when we think of some of the best American comedies that are out there, it's usually tied to Seth Rogen putting on an amazing performance. And he said yesterday that was the first time he's won anything in his career. And, you know, he actually won 4 awards. Last night we only saw him pick up 1 for Best Actor, Leading Actor in a Comedy Series. But he won 3 other acting awards for producing, for scripting and for writing. So this is a man who I think he's finally getting the credit he deserved. And I thought he looked quite good in his brown suit as well.
I love that brown suit. It's kind of cool. It looks a little bit like it's back in the 60s, doesn't it? It's a slight...
I loved it because usually when you see men on the red carpet, usually it's just black and white tuxedos. I love that he stepped out in the brown suit and he's a bit of a fashionista. People are always watching what he wears and he genuinely was not expecting to win that award last night. So he said it came as a shocker, but I'm glad that he's finally getting the dues he deserves.
And also, of course, the brown suit that I'm sure we'll see in many stores in the future. And Stephanie,
Definitely.
let's talk a little bit about, there were predictions that Severance would beat The Pit for Outstanding Drama Series. But in the end, how did this sort of turn out?
Well, it just goes to show you can't always trust the science when it comes to awards, Leigh-Ann, because, for the Severance, they had 27 nominations. So they have the most amount of nominations during the Emmys. So you would think that obviously they are going to pick up the Best Drama Series, but surprisingly, it went to the pit. So there's a lot of things that's happened here. Obviously, when it comes to these awards, it's up to the Academy members to pick who's going to win. And I think what's happened with the Severance, there was like a 3-year gap between the first season and the second season. So I felt like it kind of fell out of favor with TV members. And if you look at the pit, it's quite hard-hitting. It's focusing about the lives of American workers in hospitals and healthcare. So I think that was something that was touched the members of the jury. And I think that was something that made the Severance lose out. But, it was still a big winner in the night. And to have 27 nominations, that's nothing which can say that this is a series that hasn't done well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ceremony actually unusually ran on time, something many people who sit down and watch it aren't used to it. But this was actually down to the host and a clever tactic. Tell us a little bit more.
It was about time, because all these Hollywood speeches are too much sometimes, too long. I know they want to thank everybody and anybody, but Nate Bargatze, he done a really clever thing where he said that all award appearances only had 45 seconds in their speech. Any time over that, he was going to deduct the donation that he was making to the Boys and Girls Clubs in America. So by the end of the night, he did say initially he was going to donate $100,000. And by the end of the night, it had gone down to $50,000 because people were rambling a little bit. But luckily, at the end of the night, Nate and CBS said that they will be donating $350,000 to Boys and Girls Club America, which is quite a good cause, and it helps people with after-school clubs.
And quickly, before I let you go, Stephanie, I want to talk a little bit about some of your favourite red carpet looks of the night, because I love the pictures, obviously, of the red carpet. It's why we look at all the newspapers. But I was just thinking, was red the colour of the evening? Because I saw Sydney Sweeney wearing it. I also saw Selena Gomez wearing it. So tell us more.
Yeah. Well, I think clearly they wanted to blend in with the red carpet. But with Sydney Sweeney, come on, there's been a little bit of chapter about her, because obviously she had that controversial American Eagle ad earlier this year, which she got a lot of scrutiny for. The Republican Party defended her. And so people are saying that she wore red as a secret gesture to say that she is a Republican supporter, and she's thanking them for the help that they've given her amid this controversy. But that aside, it was an amazing red gown by Oscar de la Renta, and it just looked amazing on her, like it did with Selena Gomez as well, who was another person who wore red. But there was some people who obviously brought politics to the red carpet, Leigh-Ann. Megan Salter, the comedian, she actually didn't dress up in a gown at all. She was just in a white T-shirt and jeans, but she was holding this black bag that says "Ceasefire Now." Obviously talking about her support for free Palestine, and it was the same with Javier, I forgot his name, but Javier, he was also wearing yes, that's it, sorry, I had brain freeze there. He was also wearing a keffiyeh scarf as well. So again, I think fashion and politics was going hand in hand. But one of my favorite looks was Jenna Ortega. She looked amazing in this jeweled top by Givenchy, which kind of reminded me of Isabella Rossellini in Death Becomes Her. So I think that was probably the most outstanding and risky outfit of the night.
Oh, that was definitely risky. I must say something before I let you go. I absolutely loved Sydney Sweeney's red gown. It was beautiful. Entertainment reporter.
I thought it was classic. I think sometimes Hollywood stars, they tried too hard. Sometimes let's just stick to the brief and look glamour, and classic always does it best.
I couldn't agree with you more. Entertainment reporter Stephanie Tecci there. Thank you so much for joining us. A reminder of our top stories now. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio meets Netanyahu in Jerusalem and says Washington will offer its unwavering support to Israel in the war in Gaza. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces calls to sanction Elon Musk after the billionaire businessman told an anti-immigration rally violence is coming to Britain and it must fight or die. Plus, Vice President J.D. Vance will host a tribute edition of the Charlie Kirk show tonight as his alleged killer is reportedly not cooperating with authorities. And Hollywood stars graced the red carpet for this year's Emmy Awards with the Pitt and Adolescents winning trophies. And that's all from us on W News. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on X. The Real Deal is coming up next. Plus, we'll be back in a couple of hours' time with a W News Extra. Goodbye and thank you for joining us.